This lesson is on graphing systems of inequalities. For this lesson, you have to know how to graph inequalities, so if you haven't checked out the previous video, I highly recommend you do. So what is a system of inequalities? A system of inequalities is where you have one inequality, some relationship, and another inequality. So this is a system of inequalities. So now, how do I graph it? Well, in reality, we've already graphed a system of inequalities. With one variable, we could have that x is greater than 2 or x is less than 0. We've graphed this before, or at least we know how to. And at 2 and 0, x could be greater than 2, or x could be less than 0. So that would be your solution. This is graphing a system of inequalities. The only difference is that you graphed it on a number line. That's for one variable. Now we have two variables. So, how do we do this? I'll start by drawing a nice big graph. And here we have y and x. Now let's say I have this red inequality. And I do it with a dashed line. You should know what that means. And I'm going to shade in what's below. Now this could be any inequality that has some, in this case it would probably be like y equals x plus 1. Actually no, it'd be y is less than x plus 1. Because the dashed line means it's not equal to, and I'm shading in what's below. So, we'll call this the red inequality. I could also have a blue inequality. This one, let's just say it's a solid line, and it's also shaded below. So, that's blue. A system of inequality has two inequalities, but it also has the relation between them. It could be an and, or it could be an or. So, let's say it's and. That means I'm looking for points that are in the red and in the blue. So red and blue means it's going to be in here. I'm doing this as green. That's going to be the and. It looks really messy right now. So here you can see I have graphed the system of inequalities. So this green area represents parts where red is true and blue is true. It's both of them. And you can even see here that I have a dashed line over here because red isn't included there. The dashed line means red, it's like the limit of red. If it's the limit of red and the blue is there, it's also going to be the limit of green because it has to be both red and blue. So I'm just including everywhere I see red and blue in the same spot, I color that in. So there I have graphed a system of inequalities. And now let's look at a different one. So before I did red and blue. Now let's look at red or blue. So I'll do this in green again. And what this means is that as long as red is true or blue is true, even both of them could be true. As long as at least one of them is true, then I can color it in. So I'll go ahead and do that. I don't think anybody in the world should know how long that took me to do, but here I have red or blue. You can see that as long as one of them is true, it's green. So in the case of red, red had a line that it was dashed. So it's going to be dashed for green because blue isn't there. And it's saying that these points are excluded from red, while they're also excluded from green. And in the case of this solid line, for where blue was, that's because blue included that line. So I've filled it in. So there you can see what red or blue looks like. And that's what graphing a system of inequalities is. Now usually when you do this, you'll want to at least make it visible what the inequalities are coming from. What I mean is that you would show that there is this dashed red line here, and that it's filled in that direction. And you would show that there's this solid blue line here, and that it's filled in this direction. Usually you'd shade it in. I'm not doing any more shading for the rest of my life. So this is what a system of inequalities looks like when it's graphed. Please check the video on examples so you can see more on graphing systems of inequalities.